Here we go. We all set? Hello, everybody. How you doing? Big Data London. Let's hear it. Let's have Big Data London. Hello. That's it. Yes. I am Scott Taylor. I'm the data whisperer, believe it or not. I don't do a lot of whispering, and I'm here with this esteemed Datavenger panel here, Andrew, Christina, Ravit, and Kristen, and we are going to talk about what we think about what's going on today in the event, how to scale your data career, why the heck we're wearing all these polka dots, and then we'll open it up for some questions as well with the rest of the team here, but hopefully we'll have a little fun. And we're thrilled that our other Datavenger folks are here. Let's hear it for them. Let's identify yourself. You are a Datavenger.
Dedicated
our wonderful Datavenger follower, like Russell, who's been to every session. Been there. Yes, thank you so much. So, how are we doing on time? Yes, we got plenty. So why don't we just take it down the line here? Everybody just kind of say your whole name, what you do, where you're from, what gets you excited about data, and whatever else you want.
Cool. I will start. My name's Andrew Jones. I run the online data science program called Data Science Infinity, which is all about people successfully pivoting their careers over to data science and analytics. Not just learning things, learning what's in demand, learning in the right way, so based on intuition, understanding, and application, and then getting full support the whole way. So actually, this is fully focused on your results. That's what I do all day, every day. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. But yeah, I'm having a great time here at Big Data London. I'm from here in the UK, unlike most of the others, but yeah, having a great time. I'll move it on to you, Christina.
Yeah, my name is Christina Stathopoulos. I'm the recent founder of Dare to Data, which is a company on a mission to help individuals and corporations take the next step in their data journey. I am originally from the US, but I've been living abroad most of my life, my adult life in Spain. So it was just a hop over for me to come to the conference. And I've been having a wonderful time actually meeting quite a few of the Datavengers for the first time in person.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Ravit, Jain, founder and host of the Ravit Show. I love to interview people, get out there with the community, share amazing insights. You can follow me on LinkedIn and check what we're doing there, but love sharing content and being involved in data community. That's one of the reasons we are here at Big Data London. I have my co-founder as well sitting right there, Aditi, my wife. So we're doing all the interesting stuff in the data world. I'm from Mumbai, that's my den in India. But yeah, as you see, we all are here, Datavengers all together. So thank you very much for coming by.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Kristen Kehrer. I am the founder of Data Moves Me. I've been a data scientist since 2010, working across the electric and gas, healthcare, and then the majority of my time in e-commerce. And so today I now build really cool projects and I help brands evangelize. And so I've built things like a computer vision model. Every day I get texts 5 minutes before the school bus is going to pass my house. And so I just love playing with new technology and helping brands get the word out about their products through tutorials.
Super. I know the title says a debate, but we all agree. We're all friends here, so we're not going to knock it out too much. Let's talk about the event here today. Just the fact that we're here. What kind of things have you seen? What kind of topics really stand out for you? What sort of takeaways, or I guess in the U.S. they would call it takeout. But anyway, what kind of takeaways did you get from this day and a half so far?
It's been really enlightening to see so many topics covered, but I think the one thing that I'm enjoying the most is how much emphasis people are now talking on not just the tools. I know there's a lot of vendors out there selling tools, but even if people are selling tools, they're talking about the process, they're talking about the data, they're talking about the impact and how we use these things to get where we want to go. We're here partnered with OntoText, who do GraphDB, knowledge databases, knowledge graph databases, and I've been talking to them recently as well, and they do that absolutely so well. Their thought process around what it is that you can build, but where does that get you? And I'm seeing that more and more and more, and I think over the years we're going to see that more as we mature as a field. And I think whatever talk it was, if it was data literacy, if it was data engineering, if it was data science, people are starting to talk about this more, and I think that's a huge step forward for the industry.
Yeah, I would add that I think it's been my first time at Big Data London, and I love the diversity of the topics being covered. Like, there's so many different theaters. It's really covering such a diverse range of topics. And as well, one of the takeaways, or one thing that stood out to me, is that coming here, I expected and I thought that we would be hearing a lot about generative AI, LLMs. We all knew and thought this was coming. But I also heard something in one of the talks yesterday, and it was that, a lot of us are trying to get on the bandwagon with generative AI, LLMs, and so on, and we're kind of forgetting about the basics. And many companies, you realize you go into companies, a lot of them don't even have the BI figured out. So we shouldn't be just taking a jump so far. We need to focus on our data strategy, the data stack, and so on, before we try to jump into AI. That was something that I really liked, and I'm glad that I keep hearing about just the foundations of data, whether that's data storytelling, data literacy, and so on.
I agree that I'm glad this wasn't dominated by AI like so many. You go to Gartner and it's all of a sudden it's LLMs. That's all they're talking about. So it's nice that we keep a focus on a much broader spectrum.
Yeah.
Ravit.
I agree. In terms of, obviously Gen AI and AI being such a hot topic, we are getting in the real space now where companies are kind of starting to understand the application matters more than anything. They want to, the customers want to see where Gen AI is actually being applied, and then they want to actually go out. It's not just about the chatbot that you kind of have included in your product, and you can talk about it being a Gen AI product. So I think things are changing. Gen AI is kind of getting matured. Tools out there, companies out there want to be very sure if they are offering Gen AI. They're pretty sure that they have something relevant that would help the companies as well to reduce the cost or help the data engineers to get the pipeline through really easily. And with Gen AI, I think it's getting better and it's getting real. So it's not even a year where we've seen Gen AI come out, and things have changed really well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to echo exactly what everyone's saying, I think that I've been so impressed by how practical and relevant the topics that I've seen have been to everyone who is in a data career, because if you're presenting to stakeholders, you are concerned with the effective use of color. You are concerned with making sure that your data is cleaned and organized well, and of course, data literacy, as we'd like to see that move towards the broader organization anyways, but the topics that I have been sitting in have just been so widely applicable to anybody who's going to be working in data.
So if we do have to talk about AI a little bit, right? There's a lot of controversy. Is it going to replace your job? I kind of wish it would replace my job just a little bit. No, but I lean on it when I can. Yes, ChatGPT, give me 12 jokes about a fish, and I can use that in my public. But where do you really see the impact at this point? I know it's early days in terms of it being, out in the market the way it is, but where do you think the impact is, and how do you think how actually does it impact the work you do, if it does? Yeah.
For me, I mean, my day-to-day is running a course where I'm helping people learn, and there is, so two parts. The first part is it does help me in a way. I bounce ideas off ChatGPT when I'm thinking about how can I better explain something, because it does do a really good job. It is a very impressive tool. But I would never just copy and paste what it says straight and give that to a student, because the human aspect of understanding what somebody is asking or understanding where they're at in terms of why they don't understand what it is they're looking to understand. There are some nuances around there where I think humans are so much better. So I use it as a way to bounce ideas off to make me better at what I do. On the other side of it, just in terms of AI in general, I think it's a really interesting thing. AI has now become, and we were talking about this earlier, AI has now become the word for ChatGPT. AI is so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
When we're talking about supervised machine learning or deep learning, all of these things that have been around forever, right from the very simple to the more advanced, that is still AI. I don't really like this idea that people now think AI is just ChatGPT, and people think it's going to take your jobs and stuff. It really isn't. I'm glad that we're seeing the hype from a few months ago dissipate a little bit, where it was going to take your jobs and it's going to be able to do everything. That's died away a little, and I think people are maturing their views on it a little bit. We're seeing people now talking about using it when it should be used, using it for a use case that suits it. We don't need to use ChatGPT for everything, or large language models, or what we're calling AI. That doesn't solve all problems. The other thing is, the data underneath it needs to be in a position where you can make use of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying before. That's what we're talking about a little bit more. And I think that's something fundamentally we all need to understand. And I think more and more we are getting that view that it's not the panacea for everything. It's a tool in our tool belt that can be used.
Excellent proofreader. That's what I find. Perfect proofreader for sure.
No, for me, what's been changing for me is that for a while I've been doing a lot of public speaking and training, education, and now I'm constantly getting requests. I used to do lots of speeches on harnessing the power of data, and now they're always coming to me, no, we want you to talk about AI. That's always the request. Come and talk to us about AI, which is fine. And I'm doing a lot of that. But what we forget is that AI is data. Data underlies it all, right? So I'm still going and doing these talks, but I'm enforcing, underlying it all is data and the importance of data. As well, in many of my talks, I say very similar to what Andrew just said, which is that AI is so much more than generative AI. I can picture it in my head, a slide that I have, and it shows that supervised learning is this big circle. Most of what we have around us is supervised learning. So we have this big circle. And then we have generative AI over here. Okay, it's a growing circle. And then we have smaller circles of unsupervised learning and then reinforcement learning. So yeah, generative AI has taken the stage, but I think we can't forget how important supervised learning is and how it's all around us already. And then very similar to Andrew as well is the use of ChatGPT. So yes, it's an incredible tool. I use it to bounce ideas back and forth, brainstorming. It helps me with content creation as well. I never just straight copy it, and I never try to ask it things that I don't already know something about. I was actually chatting with it about SQL, and it said something wrong. I caught it hallucinating, and I challenged. No, I really did. I challenged. My husband is here. I think I told my husband, and I showed him when it happened, that it gave a wrong answer about SQL. And then I was answering saying, no, that's wrong. This is how it works. And then ChatGPT came back and was like, oh, yeah, you're right. So be very careful. It's not always right. So that's why it's, use it, but use it for things that you already have some common sense and knowledge about. Don't try to use it, for example, to produce code for you, code that you can't read on your own without it.
It's very polite, too, because when you do catch it, it says, oh, I apologize, I'm only a large language model. Just gives you that.
I think that's a super important point that you've just said. Don't think that it's going to give you everything and you're just going to run the code and it's going to work. I tried to build a web app recently because that's not really the sort of coding I do, and it was giving me the code, but I still couldn't do it properly, and it really reinforces that fact that you still need the baseline understanding of how these things work and what considerations are needed and how the data looks, and all of these things are so important. Don't just rely on it. I agree with that.
Yeah. It also has a habit of giving you double emojis for a post idea. So that's a tip-off out there. If you want to see an LLM create a post, the double emojis is a tip-off that creator didn't do it themselves. So watch.
Scott knows it all.
Yeah, right.
But I agree with Christina and Andrew, definitely. It's not, AI is more than just ChatGPT, for sure. But it does help us with content. And yeah, everyone, you're sitting on the panel, just don't go blindly and just copy-paste stuff. You need to work on it as well. It kind of helps you. It makes you better at times, but it can put you in a wrong spot.
It does help it kind of enhance creativity. You still, just like anything else, that's the data, right? You want to put in the idea. Can you brainstorm a little bit? But I think we all find some really nice utility out of it.
I like it for bouncing ideas. I was just going to say that you have to add your voice to it.
Yeah.
ChatGPT doesn't have your voice and your personality, but for bouncing back ideas, it's wonderful.
True.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I leverage it for a lot of things. But when I think about the changes that we've seen in AI and how exciting they are. As somebody who builds AI, the things that I'm thinking of are the move from manually fitting models to now being able to just fine-tune models and leverage pre-trained models, right? Because that Chat GPT or GPT-3 cost, I think, $4 million to train, right? So that is not something that a company is going to take lightly. But it's even better that you get to just pick up this thing and use it, right? Because I built an app the other day using GPT 3.5, LangChain, and Gradio. And in an afternoon, I was able to create an app where I could enter a prompt and get a response, right? And I set that up myself. And so that's incredible. Could you imagine trying to do that, like, not too long ago? And then, since I mentioned LangChain, everyone hears so much about it, but if you're not sure about what it is, basically, if I wanted to ask, what is Justin Bieber's age? LangChain is going to make the decision of, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to install the Wikipedia tool, I'm going to install a math tool, and now I've asked you, what is Justin Bieber's age today? It is going to sequentially decide in which order it should use those tools, and you can get the verbose output to watch its thought process as it says, okay, now I'm going to go to Wikipedia, and now that I have Justin Bieber's date of birth, I'm going to use the math tool, and I'm going to look at what the date is today, and I'm going to calculate his age. Could you imagine how difficult that would be to build out yourself even a year ago? And so those are a couple things I'm thinking about. One other thing I'm thinking about is the advancements we've made in explainable AI, right? So now, in an afternoon, not saying you'd be good at it, because that'd be a lie, but I'm just saying, if you go and look at the SHAP or LIME libraries in Python, if you're not already explaining your models well to your stakeholders, that's something that you can pip install that library, look at some tutorials, and in an afternoon, you can understand the feature importance of your models. And my favorite, actually, is the local interpretation, where you're looking at what are the drivers of specific customers? Because then you go into a meeting with your stakeholders and you're like, look at Jain. She owns this type of business, and these were her behaviors, and this is what the model said. And all these tools are just so much more accessible to us now than they were, just a couple years ago. It's fascinating.
It's so crazy because the next question is actually, how old is Justin Bieber? So that was on the agenda.
I got you.
Did you find that one out? Let's shift a little bit to our wardrobe. Most of us here, why are we dressed in these crazy polka dots here? It's Polka Dot Connect the Dots Day. Who else is wearing some? In kind of honor and support of our partner, OntoText, Connect the Dots campaign, the leading GraphDB company. But let's talk about that. What is the importance of kind of the graph database, underlying technology, and how do we see that working and bringing value to the business?
I just think it's similar to what I've said in my last couple of answers. It's all about thinking about the data and making use of that data, not just as data. The data is just numbers and letters. The data needs to be used for something, to understand things, to make decisions. That's where something like a knowledge graph comes in, because it's really focusing on the relationships and the context between data points. And then when we're talking about AI, LLMs, and I don't know if Joe Reese is here, he was talking yesterday on data engineering, and somebody from the audience asked him about knowledge graphs, and his response was quite telling, because he is the leader in this space. He was saying knowledge graphs are potentially going to be the missing piece of the LLM puzzle that's really going to drive them to the next level. So at the moment, sure, they do a lot of things, but they make mistakes. That something like a knowledge graph, if you can feed in information that it can understand the relationships between each of those data points, that's when you're going to take this to the next level. And I think that is, in a nutshell, without going into technical details, I think that for me is it. It's the context, it's the relationships, and it's the meaning of that data, which is why it's so cool that we are with OntoText, because they're leading in this space. I've been talking to Doug about it, and it's so fascinating, but I can just see how powerful this is going to be. In the next few years, I think this is going to grow and grow and grow.
I think it's interesting because the campaign is connecting the dots. I think we're helping connect the dots in the data space, from data governance and data management and data literacy and so on. And then knowledge graphs are helping connect the dots. And like I mean, Andrew took the words out of my mouth, but it's bringing context to data and mapping out relationships, associations between them. So just bringing the data to life. Again, like I was saying before, AI is data. Data on its own is just numbers and files and so on. But you need to bring it to life, and you need to give context to it, and then also find ways to connect between the data.
I agree 100%. Andrew mentioned about LLMs. I think knowledge graphs kind of creates the base for you to get to that next level. All the enterprise companies are kind of wanting to get into LLMs. They want to be there, but why are you not talking about knowledge graph? Onto text is actually doing that, right? So I think it's one of the most important things which enterprise companies also need to know when we're talking about LLMs or Gen AI. If they want to have that model, there are various things that you need to connect to, and I think connect the dots is the best way to do that, right?
I just love it. It's so fast, right? And when we think about working with a relational database, you're more of a detective, and we're always detectives, and I really enjoy digging into the data, but you're looking at things more in isolation, and it's more of a dig. When you're able to look at a knowledge graph and you can see how topics are connected, you're visually looking at it in a way that is actually more representative of how we think of things. And then you can use that for things like product recommendation engines or personalization, which today, like every customer is expecting when they go to your website that there's going to be a personalized experience, right? After Amazon and the others have, really put a lot of effort into personalization, it's expected of you. And graphs give you a much richer understanding and information to be able to power those applications. So I think graph technology is amazing.
It's very, we talk about relationships all the time, and relationships with data are more extended than a lot of folks think or work on in the structural end. Strict parent-child relationships, we've got to have that, categorizations. But, what's the third cousin to that idea? What's the second cousin twice removed? And being able, through a graph, to be able to see those and discover those different kinds of relationships obviously brings a lot of value to the content that you're looking at. So, anyway. Next question is actually multiple choice, so very easy here. What's your favorite graph or chart when it's not a chart? Is it a pie, is it a donut, or is it bar?
Donut, absolutely.
Donut for
it
you?
just looks better.
Okay.
I mean, you really can't use them if you have too many categories, but yay aesthetics.
I guess bar. Yeah.
Bar, I'm with you. I'll stick right to it. When it's not a chart, it's a bar.
Bar.
I'm in with donuts.
Donuts
too?
Two donuts?
Yeah,
another vote for donuts.
All right, so donuts win.
Yeah.
So much for pies, everybody. We know that one did not make it. Let's shift a little bit here. We're all content creators. We all have this incredible passion and creativity. We've all got this wonderful range. Let's talk a little bit about how we do that part of our life and how you continue to put engaging ideas out there, maybe some of the behind-the-scenes struggles. What kind of things really bring you joy about that part of your life, and just kind of take it away. Start with you, Andrew.
I mean, for me, it's part of my business. I have to tell people about my business, so that is something I have to do. Otherwise, nobody knows about it. So that's a huge part. For a lot of people who don't run their own business specifically, that'll be slightly different. But I think over time, we're seeing your online presence and your brand become more important, because it's something that recruiters are looking at. It's something that hiring managers are looking at. It's something where you can showcase the things you can do, and come interview time, it's not just words on paper. There's, like we're just talking about, context of who you are and what you can do. From my point of view, in terms of how I go about that, it's trying to find a balance between being informative and being valuable, and also trying to have a personal touch to it as well. Because I think people like that. People come on social media not just to look at screens of text. They look to come onto social media to learn, but to smile and to find something amusing.
Social, right? There's the social part of social media.
Yeah, I think, and that's something that I learned from Kate, I think, here in the front row, is something that, don't ever forget that personal touch to it, something she does very well. It's so easy for me to just spout on about data science or about my data science course or whatever, but there's a limit that people want to hear me shouting about that. So adding some personal touch to that, I think, really helps. It makes people trust you. It makes people feel like they know you. It makes people open to talk to you, and I think that's a big part about reaching people properly. You know, more than just, you're not just talking at them, you're sort of talking to them in a way where they would want to talk back and start a relationship with you online. You know, I think that's a big part of it for me.
I think that's how we started all of our relationships.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
met through LinkedIn.
We all
Yeah.
did. I mean, many of us haven't seen each other in person. We've known each other for years. So I mean, I haven't seen the side of most of these people for the last 5 years. So it's nice to see them in 3D.
So in my case, for personal branding and content creation, different to Andrew, I only recently went off on my own. So I spent over 5 years at Google and Waze. And technically, I didn't need to be on social media selling a product or selling my company. There was no need for it technically. But I'll tell a little story about how I got into this, because at first it came like naturally that I was posting, and I found it interesting. I found it a way to grow my network, thought leadership. And I realized the power of personal branding and content creation, particularly through LinkedIn, because that's how I got my job at Google. Some people know that. I've talked about it in podcasts before, but I got contacted for a position that was opening up in Google Madrid at the time where I was living. And there was a hiring manager that had an open position on his team, and he had seen me posting, sharing content around data analytics, data science, and so on. And when they had an open position, he thought of my name from LinkedIn, reached out to me. I'd never spoken to him before. And he said, hey, we've been connected for a while. I've seen your content, and I have a feeling that you might fit for this job, or you might like it. And he invited me to come to the office, have a coffee, and have a chat about it. And that was the beginning of the journey that led me into Google for over 5 years. Recently left, now I'm on my own. And I see even more the importance of getting my name and my brand out there.
Love it. I think that's the power of LinkedIn. So definitely we all are there. You can
Yeah,
follow us.
we live and die on LinkedIn every day,
Right.
don't we?
For me, content is definitely something which we all do every day, sharing real stories. I want to bring the best leaders on the Ravit show, make sure they come and share about their stories, not talk about something around their product. People don't want to listen about product, but they want to listen to real stories, even if it's about customers. Bring their customers on board, talk about it, talk about it in a way which is very much insightful for your audience. Like Andrew mentioned, it's a two-way thing where you're talking to your audience daily. Now, it's in a way where I'm kind of creating content by interviewing people, interviewing leaders in the data science AI space, and getting those stories out. I think it started almost close to 4 years back now. And it's been a journey where people love listening to something which is very authentic, and that's the USP. I do live sessions. People come and ask questions. Not every day you can go and ask a CEO a question that is around their product or something about something else, right? But I'm kind of giving the community that opportunity that, you got a place, you have a CEO of this company, and now you can ask anything. And I'm going to take that question.
Yeah.
We'll put the CEO on spot, but then it always helps. So apparently the leaders love it too, because they want those questions coming in. They're looking for that feedback. They just don't want yeses around. So I'm kind of trying to build that type of content since last 4 years. I'm on that journey.
You absolutely are. How many episodes have you done?
So we have 150 plus now.
How many?
150 plus.
150 plus, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, and incredible meteoric rise in terms of your following and just the number of episodes, and you just keep at it.
Thanks God.
It's just fabulous.
No, it's us, the community, who makes, each one of us go out there and do different things and keeps us motivated to because it's difficult. People think content creators have an idea every morning and they can just go out and post. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
We all go through times where, I don't know what to go out and post about. What story should I share? Have I already shared these stories? And it's more like a responsibility that we are in. And, we need to go out and make sure that our folks who are following us, they like the content. It's relatable. So it's not easy, but it's good.
I think we all struggle with ideas, everyone but Kate, who will post 12 times a day sometimes.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
algorithm be damned. I keep throwing it at you, but she keeps it going. Kristen,
content creation has changed my life. Like, I'm in London with dear friends that I talk with a lot, and I'm like really grateful. Like, and it's as a result of showing up and consistently creating content, which I really enjoy doing. Like, as much as I feel like working in data is very creative as well. Like, I've also done, back handsprings with pose estimation, and it allows me to be creative in another way and share it with the world and get ideas from other people. If you're building something and you're struggling, like, consider posting it on Reddit, because they will let you know what you could be doing better, So it's this collaborative learning. It's the opportunity to be really creative. And just the benefits that I've gotten out of it are just not even measurable.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be here either, right?
Yeah.
Without LinkedIn, without creating content, 30 years in the corporate space, going out on my own, trying to create a voice out there for the world as I see it. And, I don't know about the rest of you.
Yay!
And part of it, absolutely, for me, is the connection you make with folks that you don't even realize till you show up somewhere in real life. And people come up to you. It's not just sort of the fan aspect of it as much as just, oh, this was really good. This helped me through this. I really like this, and shared it with somebody. They can be people who you don't even see kind of as regular engagement folks, but it's just so gratifying to be able to share these thoughts with people and have it resonate in a way that it helps them or makes them smile or keeps them going every day.
And I would add that it's not for everyone. You don't necessarily everyone have to be posting every day and putting all this effort into content creation, because like we said, it's not easy. It's not like you wake up every morning and you have ideas. You have to hopefully get inspiration. But I think you should realize that a platform like LinkedIn, whenever any step in your data career, when you're applying for a new job or you're looking for a promotion, especially if you're applying for a new job at a new company, if you think they are not looking for you on LinkedIn, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You should at least have something there, have your profile. I'm very focused on LinkedIn because that's where I do most of my content creation. But, have a good profile and maybe occasionally post so that you have some kind of voice there. And I think it will help, trust me, throughout your data career.
Agreed.
Part of what we do, too, we all have, I think, really strong personal brands. The rest of the Datavengers do. It's kind of a requirement to be part of it. But talk about that. Talk about, creating a personal brand, what you think the importance of that is, maybe some do's and don'ts or anything around that topic.
I think the hardest part is not creating the content once you've built up a network. It's starting. It's starting. It's feeling bold enough or brave enough to do it for the first time. Not worrying about what people who know you might think, right? That was a big one for me. Like, what if somebody who I know sees this? It's like, well, that's the point, right? We're trying to put stuff out there. So we've all built our networks up, but we've started from nothing. So, it can be done. But the analogy I like, or the way I like to think about it is, don't think that you've got nothing to post. There's always somebody who can learn from what you know or the journey that you're on. So none of us are the number one person in our field who knows more than anybody else. Like, even if you know 50, of all the people in your field, if you were at the 50th percentile in terms of how much you know, there's 50% of people who could learn from you. So don't worry about thinking that you're the expert in the field before you feel confident hitting post. There's always somebody who'll learn from you, especially if you're on a journey towards learning something. On LinkedIn, you can get away with making mistakes and saying something wrong. Reddit, less so. But there are always people that can learn from you. So don't shy away from doing it. Get started, I would say.
I do believe I'm the top person in data puppets. So,
You are,
Could be.
Scott.
Yay.
Nobody's better than you at
That's
that.
my niche, so don't go anywhere near it.
I can't name anybody else in the field.
There you go.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's a
so
lonely field, but
factually true,
somebody's
yeah.
got to do it, just like that. Yeah. Data lip syncs over here with Susan.
I think for personal branding, my tips would be, like, I think the key to it is building a unique, authentic voice, but you need to find that voice. That can take some time, experimentation, that's totally fine. And then the other thing that I think is absolutely fundamental is consistency. So yes, getting started is good, but what you have to make sure is that once you start, you stick with it. Because it's very easy to just kind of put it aside every day. make a goal, whether that's weekly, maybe start weekly and then move up to daily, but find your own consistency and you need to stick with it.
Yeah, Laurence Olivier once said, it's all about authenticity, and if you can fake that, you got it made. So that's from him. But yeah, and also that consistency. Anybody here who's thinking about starting, if you think one post is going to make or break you, then you don't know the model. It is about being there over and over and over again. And we all, we could go on for a whole nother seminar on the evil algorithm and trying to game it and figure it out. But what delivers often over time is you delivering often over time, no matter what. So
that's right.
But personal branding on your side.
I think Andrew and Christina have covered amazing points. But I think one thing that I feel that you need to have is passion. If you're getting in that direction, obviously you can't, if your one post goes viral, that's not it, right? There's a long way to go. There might be I'm pretty sure all the Datavengers here might have hundreds of, viral posts out there. But then there's still a long way that we want to go through, and we want to go on that journey where we can, say that, we're building something. And it's more like a responsibility again. It's again coming back to the same thing where I start creating content, people start believing in you, and you have like Andrew mentioned, even if you are at the first 50%, if those 50% kind of start believing in you, you kind of are responsible. You kind of start feeling that. And I think if you're passionate, you'll just go in that direction and do pretty well. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything here. And I also see a lot now when I look at, data scientist applications, and you see inputs now for both your LinkedIn URL and your website. So then the question becomes, do you have a LinkedIn URL and do you have a website? And I think that a website is a fantastic tool for being able to show potential hiring managers, even if it's just a project or two, or a blog article or two, just something that you've done to display that you have the skills and also that you can articulate yourself. Because I know that they also ask for your GitHub, but I don't know if a HR person, if GitHub lands in an HR person's, I don't know how much they're actually going to be able to sort of decipher and get value out of that. So these are just my opinions. It's something I'd love to have a longer discussion on, but.
And we've all dealt with that content situation where you work really hard on something, you think, this is it, this is brilliant, and, I get one like from Susan, and that's it. And then the other thing where it's just I don't know if this will work. All right, I'm running off somewhere, let me just try it, and it just zooms off. And it's just, it just keeps proving to you that you really don't have any idea what's going to work and what's not in that whole mix of all this social stuff, timing.
And it changes.
Yeah,
it changes all
You'll figure it out, but it changes on you.
I think there's a super important point in there, though, right? That
I hope so. I hope I got a super important there somewhere.
I always try and find it when you're talking.
Thank you.
I think there is a super important point in there that once you start building up your network, and I agree with you, it's finding your unique voice. Do it for you and do it for your journey, because there will always be a day when you don't get as many likes as you think. Don't attach that to your own personal value. I've talked to people who are in a similar sort of sphere to us, and it has really gotten them down, the fact that maybe the algorithm's changed and all of a sudden they're not getting the likes they used to. It seems like a silly bit of advice, right, on the surface level, but once you start getting your brand built up, don't do it for the likes. Do it for the learning journey you're on, or do it for your voice that you're trying to, because that can change very quickly. I think that's just something I thought within what you were saying is quite important to remember when you're trying to build up your brand.
What else in terms of, part of what drew us together actually is kind of the other side, which are the trolls. And the people going after us. And you try and build up this confidence, and you post something, and somebody literally says, this is bullshit. And there were a couple of them out there, and part of what created the Datavenger spirit in the beginning, I believe, was us letting each other know about these creeps out there who are only out there to give us a hard time. And I remember one specifically, there's one guy, I forgot his name, luckily, but I warned Susan about him. Or he showed up on Susan's post, and Susan went, "Melvin, I've been waiting for you." She was like, we just like kind of all jumped on him. And I think it's kind of cleared up a lot of those folks. They went back into their holes, wherever they were. They can go bother another category. But part of the camaraderie that we have is we've got kind of a back channel chat room that we do in LinkedIn about either here's something I'm working on or here's somebody who's really giving me a hard time, and we kind of go after them there. So it's been kind of a nice thing. We've got a couple minutes left, and we're going to open it up. Or want to open up the questions now? You think anybody? Unless anybody got questions? All right, good. We got a couple here. Yes, please. All right, we started. There's my 10-minute sign. I'm getting it 2 minutes early. I hope you don't mind.
Hello, great team.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming and buying all our books.
So I wanted to check in terms of LinkedIn and COVID. What was your experience before and after? For instance, in LinkedIn, I wasn't really looking at LinkedIn before COVID too much.
Okay.
But then during and then after, the connections and the posts and the content was so incredible for me that, how was your experience from your end?
It was a silver lining, I hate to say it, of COVID, was the fact that everybody was sitting around at home, and I think they spent a lot more time on social media. And we did, at least for me, I put a lot of stuff out there. One of the early things that I thought was brilliant was Kate Strachny did her LinkedIn Live conferences and killed it every time. But here was a free platform that she got this whole community. And she had me on the show. There's like 1,000 people watching. You go, wow. So I know COVID definitely helped a lot, which is not something you should say without finishing that sentence, in terms of kind of the LinkedIn community, and I think the focus people had on it.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was really important. It helped us stay connected during that time. But what I will say is that I'm so glad that's over now.
Yes,
that we can
here's
come
for
back
COVID
together.
being over. Yeah. We went right back to it, too.
Yeah.
Right? I thought, okay, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be bumping elbows, and we're just all hugging together and like that. It's like, the hell with it.
No, actually, the first thing that came to mind was the dedicated conferences. It was, because it reminded me that those launched during COVID. So everyone was stuck online. As well, I think the effect of COVID was just that we suddenly lost all of these in-person conferences. We weren't going to the office anymore. We weren't having these, after work get-togethers. So we didn't have any way to interact. And I felt like a lot of people, at least in the professional, business world, they fell back on LinkedIn. So I saw a lot of activity then, and then post-COVID, I still see the activity living on because it showed the true value of the platform, of the network, and as well just the content, the knowledge that you can pull off of it.
I think content creators were born in COVID, during
I
COVID,
think
right?
probably.
Everyone kind of came together on social media, on LinkedIn, and started sharing their stuff, started putting out their voices out there. And indeed, we all came together through COVID. So it was great. It's still great because we're connected. You're seeing us here in person, which is way better than sitting over the machine and just talking, right? So, things have changed, but I think community is built, a huge community. People know each other much more than it used to be back then. So it's for good, I guess.
Yeah, I think my experience was a little different. When COVID hit, my kids were 2 and 5, and when they came home, we ended up finishing the basement, but I didn't have a quiet place to take meetings, to do my podcasts, and, just trying to manage and there was no child care, there was no grandparents because they were the, most likely to be affected. And so to help with my mental health and to make sure I was there to support my children, I sort of took a step back a little bit, and I ran a pod of first graders out of my living room. I'm so grateful that I was able to make it back, and I spent a year as a developer advocate, which was a really cool role. I learned a lot about ML ops, and I built my business up again, and now I'm back.
Right. There we go. Deanna has a question. Yes, in the front row.
Yes, you are like Nick Fury of the Datavengers, yes?
Am I don't know. We've good question, because as Datavengers, we are not adhering to any strict canon. So we're a little loose around there for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is we don't want any Disney lawyers on our ass. So So we're just don't map
Great.
directly
No,
to
no,
there.
okay.
Next question.
Yes, I'm very grateful that you actually encouraged George, to do this. And I wanted to ask you, how did you start?
How did I start?
How did you start to post on LinkedIn? And
I had a
follow?
whole bunch of. I was at Dun & Bradstreet for a couple of years, and I had a whole bunch of videos of me speaking. And in case you don't notice, I have a fear of not public speaking. And I did some clips out of that. Started playing with editors, and which I really have as a hobby. And I was posting those, and it just got great reaction. And so I was fortunate. I had this whole reservoir of content already, where I had a whole bunch of different looks and different contexts of these events that I was in, and stitched all those together. And that was kind of my start in at least the video side. And I prefer to do video than the long form stuff and that sort of thing. I used to write white papers. Now I do puppet shows, so it's a lot more fun that way. But that's certainly how I got started. How did everybody else get started? Where did you feel like, you took that leap and said, okay, now I'm really doing this. It's not something I see on the side. It's part of what I really do every day.
I've been on LinkedIn for a long time, but it wasn't until I started thinking about creating my own business. It was before I started it, but I already had the cogs were already turning, so I was starting to share bits and pieces that are, around bits of code or bits of other learnings that I had. And that, I think, spurred me on to actually go and create it, because it was getting, people were finding value in that. And I thought, how can I actually sort of package this together and make it even more valuable? So it was sort of organic for me, but related around that idea of, I guess, needing to promote my own business eventually. I thought, I'm going to share more and more value to showcase the value that I have to offer potentially. That would be me.
I actually met George through LinkedIn by seeing one of his videos, so I appreciate the compliment, but he was killing it before that too. And he had a video, 10 things you should be doing with data management. And I still, to this day, I go, if you're not doing all 10 of these, what the hell are you doing? They just all made such sense, and we connected up eventually. He said, I was watching your stuff too, but that's another way that we all I think we all had some sort of initial respect and engagement with our content without knowing each other yet, and that certainly led to a lot of friendships.
For me, it actually started when I was studying my master's back in 2015. I was doing a master's in business analytics and big data. And I was creating content during the master's, like sharing my journey of studying and sharing like behind the scenes of that. And in parallel, I had gotten like a partial scholarship, and as part of the scholarship, I was running the social media of the master's. So I was kind of like forced on that side to do it. And then at the same time, I took advantage and started creating my own on LinkedIn. And then, that's how I kind of got into it naturally, and kept going with it. The consistency was really important, and I like found it fun. I mean, I enjoy it. It's part of like a passion, creating it and trying to create things that inspire others. And then what happened with Google, being contacted by Google, that was like the first time I had a light bulb in my head, and I realized like, wow, this can be really powerful as well for my career. And then from there, the networking, I met all of you. It just kind of led one to the next, and now it's become something that I'm doing all the time.
Yeah, for me, it was back then in my MBA days, I guess. We started, and it was one of the assignments that you need to have your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, okay.
It's a good assignment,
You
I
got
guess,
an
right?
A plus.
A plus.
Yeah.
My professors are happy with me, what I'm doing on LinkedIn at
Okay.
least. So, yeah, it started back then, and it was more on the lines where I was working for market research companies. I was researching on various topics and then sharing with my community. Slowly and steadily, it was, so in the end, I knew what I'm working in, and it was data. And somehow I slowly connected the dots onto text.
Bringing it back. Always
Good,
bring
right?
it back.
Yeah. So that's how it started. And with all those projects, slowly and steadily, I've built that community. But obviously, I got into data science and AI more when I was working with Pack Publishing. Mm-hmm. I was closely working with tech authors and making sure that the books are amplified at a global level, and going out there and making sure that the community is learning. And that was a huge gap that I found, that, community wants to learn from real people, authentic people sharing stories. That's how it all started.
You were a great hype man for your authors. I remember you were like the DJ Khalid of authors in data, for sure.
Those books actually got sold, so yeah.
Yeah, so in 2018, I went on LinkedIn and I saw a friend of mine. I had gotten a master's degree in applied statistics in the 2000s, and I saw a friend from grad school posting, and I called them up and I said, are you trying to be like Mr. Popularity? What are you doing? And they said, you have to write a blog post. And so I thought about, my opinions that are strong on lots of things, and I wrote a blog post on what everyone's doing wrong with their behavioral customer segmentations using cluster analysis, and I wrote it and nobody cared. I got like a couple likes, but then I spoke at my alma mater about how to get into data science and what a data scientist career might look like, and I wrote that blog article, and it just took off because every time I wrote a blog article, I'd also share it on LinkedIn, and then I was hooked. So since 2018, I'm in it.
Yeah.
In it.
Any other question here? Doug, you got any questions? Oh, we got lots of questions. Sorry. Jess. Sorry. Last question, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, my question is, what advice would you have for someone who is currently in a corporate 9-to-5 role and wants to be on the stage, metaphorically and physically, with y'all one day? So someone who wants to start their own
now.
Right now.
So someone who wants to be in your shoes someday and start their own data business, specifically for someone who is maybe earlier on in their career.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
Get your voice. I'd start with get your voice. You got to have your voice. If you can define a voice that's you, you've got to have the product. You've got to have your point of view too. But I think people really respond to a clear voice. They might all respond positively, but if you get more positive than negative, you're on the right track. But I think people do admire and kind of gravitate towards somebody who has a point of view around a topic. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah, I mean, like you said before, for social media, finding your unique voice, find your unique offering as well if you're thinking about starting a business specifically. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean you have to go out and do something that's never been done before. In fact, quite the opposite. It's thinking about what are people not doing well enough. So for me, when I was going into thinking about teach data science, there's lots of people teaching data science, but there's so many people also saying they're trying to get into data science and they can't land a job. So what's the problem? People aren't teaching it in the right way. They're not teaching it with application in mind and truly around intuition. So that's where I tried to fit myself in, was finding a unique way to do that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Find a way to differentiate yourself. And you mentioned about being young in your career. That's okay. Make sure you get some experience. But from there, if you have very well defined your skills, where you feel comfortable, what you can offer to the community, then go with it. If you have that very much figured out, then I think quit corporate. We all did.
I think for sure I agree with those points. When you have a product, you can go out and do it. But if you want to try, you can always go back to corporate, quit it right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you have the chance. And you can come here with us for sure. Right now as well, right?
Yeah, no, just to echo what everyone said, when Andrew mentioned the product, we all already know you have great engagement on LinkedIn, and it would probably be defining what that offering is and really being able to nail that down and speak to the right person about it.
And the last thought, if you are in a corporate job, I was corporate for 30 years. Part of what I did was be that guy who would present at the conference, be the guy who would do the round table with customers. Get good at the technique part. Because a lot of this, we talk about data storytelling. There's the data, there's the story, which is the narrative, but there's the telling part. And that does have a lot of technique in it. That does have a lot of, hard skill stuff that you can learn on the dime of your current corporate boss to develop and then use later. But anyway, I want to thank everybody so much for your time. I want to call the rest of the Datavengers up on stage here. We want one last shot. But thank you all for coming as well. Thank you.